Now, to make sense of everything that's happening, I'm joined now by the financial columnist, Taha Arvas. Great to have you here in the studio and at such an important time. First of all, Taha, let's look at what the central bank has just announced. Talk us through those steps and what does it mean and is it enough?
There are two major components of those steps. The first one is the reserve ratios have been decreased for the Turkish lira. That adds liquidity to the market, so people who are looking to borrow or in a cash crisis can borrow much easier. This decreases the interest rates on those loans and it makes money more widely available. More importantly, they put restrictions on foreign borrowers to enter into swaps with banks in Turkey. This means that there are foreign companies who want to place a bet against the Turkish lira and actually help it slide further by shorting the Turkish lira, which means they sell the Turkish lira and buy dollars without having any Turkish lira in the first place. This is the major problem with the currency slide as it is. So they've put a cap on that, which means that you can't unlimitedly, you can't borrow and do this without limit. And that should slow. That is one of the reasons why this has slowed the depreciation of the lira. And I think those steps will do a lot to curb its slide.
Okay, and of course there's a lot of pressure to increase interest rates. Do you think that will happen?
I don't think it will happen, and I don't think it should happen because it won't do anything at this point. This is no longer an economic problem. The first 5%, first 6, 7% was about economics, could have been about interest rates, but it no longer is. Yesterday was primary day in the United States. Republicans held their primaries to choose their candidates for the House of Representatives. Many Trump Republicans lost, and this means Donald Trump is in trouble, and his party will most likely lose the House of Representatives in November. He needs a go-to galvanizing force to get his base out to vote. They didn't vote yesterday. So what better call to galvanize his people than something like the situation we have in Turkey with this one pastor who's lived in Turkey for 20 years. So he needs to make this as big a story as possible. So the United States, specifically not the United States, but Donald Trump and Vice President Pence won't let up until November because they need to win this election and they have no other issue to go on right now.
Okay, so you say this is no longer an economic problem.
Not.
Very interesting. But how do the markets see this? We've seen European markets open lower, the euro also lower.
The South African rand was down over 10% today. The Indian rupee is at lows. The Russian ruble plummeted against the dollar today. The U.S. dollar is at its peak in the last 1 year, the highest it's been in the last year because of this Turkish crisis. Countries like Hungary, Poland, and Bulgaria export to Turkey. Turkey's in their top 5 exporters. They will lose billions, hundreds of billions. The European Union will, unless they stop this contagion. The Turkish crisis will be the spark that causes the next crisis after the 2008 Great Recession. It could be even greater than that. So the European Central Bank has two choices. It can either step in here and help Turkey, its European neighbor, out, or it will face the consequences and it'll be a bloodbath in Europe as far as financial markets go.
Taha, that's a very big statement. I remember the 2008 crisis very well when Lehman Brothers went down.
Greece is 1/5 the size of Turkey. Imagine what that did. So imagine what will happen if it happens to Turkey.
And do you think that will happen, that we will see another crisis?
I don't think so. The Europeans have way too much invested in Turkey to take that risk. It's a $500 billion gamble. I mean, and they don't need to do anything. If the ECB comes out and says, we're behind Turkey on this, that's enough. They don't actually have to put in any money to this. But not doing that will be such a huge risk, and I don't think they want to gamble with their next 10 years on such a situation.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there on that cliffhanger. Thank you so much, Taha Arvas.